Typecast Heroes, where we believe typology can save the world. I'm Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Justin Miller, and today we are continuing our series on the cognitive functions. So if you've been watching all of our videos, we've done a video for each of the 8 cognitive functions, and you can watch them to learn a little bit more about how your mind makes decisions and perceives information, as I say in all of the videos.
Every single one.
All of the things. So if you haven't gone to watch our videos about Myers-Briggs test and what do those 4 letters mean, you should probably go do that so you can understand a little bit about where we're coming from. We also have a video on the history of the Myers-Briggs exam and why it can tell you all sorts of things about yourself, but why it's often wrong. So cognitive functions are where you should start. And if you've seen all of those and that is where this led you, thank you for following instructions. Remember that this series serves as a teaser for our 16-episode podcast series that should be released once we get all of the data that we need. And if you don't know about the data or the interview process, please go watch our very first video and have mercy on us because that was a rough one.
Oh, it was so rough.
But go watch it anyway, and then you can laugh a little bit and see how far we've come. Mm-hmm. That is called Welcome to Typecast Hero.
Quick warning, as we do in every video, anyone can be anything. So today we are talking about introverted thinking, and you may relate to a few things that we say about it, but just remember who you are at your core and remember what your default setting is. That's what we love to say here at TCH. And even though it's an introverted function, we're not talking about introverted people. So please don't think that when we say introverted thinking, that means that you don't like people, you want to stay in bed and read all day. You may want to, but you also may not want to. This is simply just a function that you use to make decisions. You will hear us a lot of times refer to these functions with 2 letters, TI, meaning introverted thinking. And we're also going to talk about its access partner, which is extroverted feeling, which you'll hear us call FE. Also, if you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, any of our posts that reference these functions, again, we'll use TI and FE. The types that primarily rely on introverted thinking are INTP, ISTP, ENTP, and ESTP.
So introverted thinking, as it's commonly portrayed on the internet, is usually as kind of any introverted function, as I've seen on the MBTI community, they usually show them as sort of closed-minded, aggressive, but that's not what this is. It's not just an overly opinionated person. It can present that way, and particularly in unhealthy people, but introverted thinking, as it is defined by Carl Jung, again, lots of people on the internet want to argue, myself included, I was just in one, or discuss, let's just say healthy debate, a healthy debate about what the functions mean. But Carl Jung, whose psychology we follow when we discuss cognitive function, he was so vague in these definitions, and they can mean a variety of things. So our philosophy here is we give you the language to use because it helps you understand yourself and others. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, if you want to argue with me, so be it. But we are going to give the most versatile definition and inclusive definition that we can, while also remaining true to the original content. Mm-hmm. So introverted thinking is focused inward, right? Any introverted function is going to focus the energy inside yourself rather than in the external world. So introverted thinking is when you build a logical framework to decide what conditions things must meet to make sense to you. So it looks at all of the data, all of the objective information out there, and objective meaning just outside of yourself, because that's how Carl Jung defined objective versus subjective. And you look at a piece of information and you run it through that framework. So I was called out in another video for saying that introversion is a slow process and extroverts are typically quick to think. But this is the way that introversion works. When you have an introverted thinking process, is you are creating a framework through which all of the things must be filtered. And that does take time. So while you may be quick to pick up a new piece of information, that doesn't mean the framework is any different. To change the actual framework of logic and data that you've constructed, that does take time.
And if you've ever had a healthy debate with a TI user, you would know it takes time to get them to change their mind and to process all the things.
Right. And so it takes time to get them to change the actual system that they are thinking of. So while you might present a new fact to an introverted thinker, and then we'd be like, oh, cool, I like that fact, I'm going to drop this opinion and pick up that fact, the framework that they are using is still unique to them. That does take a little bit of time to change. So with introverted thinking, this is when you spend a lot of time in your head, because those frameworks take a lot of time. So if you are building a framework through which you're going to run all sorts of information, you have to rely a lot on yourself. And that's going to make you self-conscious about what everybody around you is feeling. And so introverted thinking, according to Carl Jung, is on an axis with extroverted feeling. So they tend to worry about how people are perceiving them, even if they say that they don't. They tend to worry about the morals and values of the people around them. They get kind of defensive about this if they have it in their fourth function. And they can get sort of self-conscious about that function. So this is why thinkers are also feelers, because you have both of those functions in the top of your stack, which means you are using them to make decisions. And depending on where they're oriented, you'll rely on one more than the other. But for introverted thinkers who rely on it as their first function, they rely on extroverted feeling a little less. And then if it's in their second and third, they rely on it almost equally. They can switch back and forth. So again, nobody is all thinking, no matter what they tell you, no matter what the memes tell you. Nobody's all thinking, and no one is all feeling. So now that we've got the scientific definitions out of the way, as scientific as we possibly can be, we're going to go ahead and talk about how it manifests in the introverts. So the two introverts that this works with are INTPs and ISTPs. And personally, I love INTPs and ISTPs because they have introverted thinking as their dominant function, which means that they can use it really, really well. And I have introverted thinking in my third function. So it gives me an excuse to come out and play when I talk to an INTP or an ISTP, and it gives me a lot of joy. It fills my heart when I talk to them. So because they both lead through life with this decision-making process, which means when they interact with an environment, they are checking it against their own system that they have created and that makes sense to them, they can come across kind of stubborn or kind of closed-minded a little bit. However, they would not have an opinion if they hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it or at least building up that framework to make sure everything checks out. So when they tell you an opinion and they are an introverted person, then that means that they have spent a lot of time developing it. And that means they also trust you an awful lot because they're an introvert and they don't have to bring it out into the world. But when they share it with you, they're showing you that they care because they want to bring it out into the world. And this can be really isolating, especially if you live in a small town and you've developed a lot of opinions that don't match that town. It can feel like nobody around you is logical, nobody around you gets you. And if you're a woman who leads with introverted thinking, it's a unique type of difficult because you are supposed to have all of these feelings and you're running everything through a logic system, and that can be isolating too. So introverted thinking can come with a lot of challenges when you are interacting with the environment. They also can be seen as incredibly passionate people and, again, sort of stubborn. But that's just because of the time that they go into developing these frameworks. It's like if you spend 5,000 hours doing something, you're considered an expert at it. And this is their whole life has been running through logical systems and seeing what makes sense to them. So if you attack it or you downplay it or you won't just hear them out, that's just so discouraging as an introverted thinker as they interact with the world. It's just discouraging for them. And especially because it's difficult for them to share their thoughts with the world, it's just really sad. So remember, they do have extroverted feeling in their fourth function, both INTPs and ISTPs, which means that they do care about how you feel and they care about what you value. So they want you to, if they love you, if you're somebody who's in their circle of friends, their circle of love. Like I have INTP buddy who I can call up and he would literally drop anything for me. He's done so many things. I love INTPs and ISTPs. They're cool too. I've got some great ISTPs I interact with on the daily basis. Just thinking particularly because I know INTPs tend to get kind of marginalized in society. But the secret is that they're really just cuddly little teddy bears. Like
they really are.
I know they have that reputation of being really robotic and cold. They're not robots at all.
They have feelings and they do care.
And the way they show they love you is by showing their opinion. So I've talked to many of them who, sometimes I'm just kind of like, well, why don't you just stop fighting? Maybe you should just stop fighting. But that's the way that they show they love you is by sharing their opinion with you. So accept their love. Why would you reject it? That's not nice. So my role for society, if you're an INTP or an ISTP, is that if you love an INTP, if you love an INTP or if you love an ISTP, the role of society should be to let them have their opinions. And again, especially for women, it's really, really hard when you have spent a lot of time on an idea and then nobody wants to hear it. And for INTPs, because they have extroverted intuition as their second, that means that their introverted thinking is going to have a lot of kind of off-the-wall ideas sometimes. Their ideas can seem really outside of the box. Mm-hmm. And then for introverted thinkers, because they use extroverted sensing, which go watch those videos. Stop watching this one if you haven't and go watch them. But extroverted sensing means that they're going to be using a lot of concrete data and concrete realities. So both of them are going to come up with really good, strong opinions that come from good places. INTP is going to be more outside of the box. ISTP is going to be more based in reality. However, both of them are valid and both of them deserve to be heard. And to me, one of the saddest things is when an INTP or an ISTP shuts off. Mm-hmm. It stops talking because nobody wants to hear their opinions anymore, or they've been shut down so many times. That's just so horrifying to me. So now we're going to move on to the extroverts who use this function. So that would be ENTPs or ESTPs. So for them, because introverted thinking is their second function, this is one of the driving motivators for their perception of reality. So it's not the primary way they interact with the environment, so it's going to manifest a little differently from the introverts and from each other. So for an ENTP, because they lead through life with extroverted intuition, again, go watch the video, go. If they lead with extroverted intuition, which means that they are perceiving their environment not as it is, but as it could be. That's typically how they perceive their environment. And so when they filter through, when they're interacting with the room, then after they see everything, then their introverted thinking comes into play. So what tends to happen is, yes, they can be very quick to gather a large amount of information, and then they drop it just as quickly. However, what does not change is that framework like we're talking about. Their system of conditions that things must meet. It's like their system of principles that they've worked on. That takes time to change. They perceive the world with extroverted sensing, which means they are seeing everything in a hyper reality. They see it just as it is, and they see all of the details that every other type misses because they're not projecting anything onto it or projecting very little, and they are seeing all of the things black and white. It is what it is type of thinking, which we fangirled over that in extroverted sensing. Super hard. Because I'm fascinated with you guys. ESTPs, come talk to me. Anyway, moving on. So ESTPs see reality, and then again, they take in all of the information and they pull it through that, and then their introverted thinking makes sense of it all in the background. So again, they can also be sort of quick to take in a new fact or data and drop it just as quickly. However, it still has to meet their internal checks. So their framework does not change even if the information does. For both ENTPs and ESTPs, they have introverted thinking second and extroverted feeling third, which means that they can use, again, depending on the theory, if you want to fight me, we can fight later. But let's focus on this for now. Just hear me out. Hear me out is all I'm asking. Show my TI child some respect. It's true.
Show the child some respect.
Anyway, so we've got introverted thinking and extroverted feeling, and they can use them almost equally. So if you're an extrovert, that means that you have a tendency to want to stay extroverted. You want to stay interacting with the environment and living in the moment. So you have a tendency to skip introverted thinking and to jump down into extroverted feeling. So you'll jump back and forth between those two things. For some types, this means that you can end up using your extroverted perceiving function and extroverted feeling, and you can kind of be a boundary pusher. You can be somebody who is too people-pleasy, or you could be somebody who is incredibly empathetic, but to your own detriment at times. So all three of those traits can come up in an ENTP or an ESTP. The way that they can combat that is to own their introverted thinking, which is why language is so important. If you have properly typed yourself as an ENTP or an ESTP, and you know that you have a tendency to push boundaries, to check social mores, or to be too people-pleasy.
Right. If you're making decisions based on what everyone is going to feel about that decision, and you're not going through your own filter, you're going to end up regretting your decisions more than likely because they weren't true to you. That wasn't your truth. That was what you thought everyone else would want. And that it just sucks. And so you have to internalize that stuff. You have to, and as an extrovert, it is so hard to do. I get it, but it's something that has to be done.
For extroverted, and because extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing are both perceiving in the moment functions, sometimes what happens is they are so busy running around acting. And again, extroverted feeling, it can be people pleasing. I see that more in women or more in people who are more sort of feely, like they're closer to that. But it can also be kind of negative things like boundary pushing. So like, let me see if I can just make this joke a little bit more inappropriate. Let me see if I can comment this bad thing on a YouTube video just a little bit more, just to see what people are going to do, just to get that reaction out of people. And that looping can be really dangerous and not bring about the good qualities that you do have within you. So you have to stop jumping between those two functions. And like Amanda said, really take some time to stop in the world and to think. And ESTPs in particular, I know that's really hard for you guys because you guys are all about action and moving quickly. And I love you guys. My dad is an ESTP, but sometimes it can be beneficial to take a moment and check those frameworks. So again, language is important for both of these types because it lets them know that they need to spend time by themselves to really work out this framework. They have to take the time to process all this information. Now, for the extroverts, they may want to work it out with you, but the introverts probably aren't gonna. They're gonna want to debate with you, and that's fine. But if you start attacking them personally for these beliefs,
you're gonna lose them.
And you have to know that nothing that they are saying is, most likely, nothing that they are saying is supposed to be a personal attack. They just they like to play with ideas. That's what they do. So let them play with ideas.
And let them stay in their head. And let the extroverts whiteboard it out. Let them talk to you. And they may just want to like bounce the ideas around. Yeah, absolutely. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're saying something and then they're like just stuck on it. It means that they want to communicate. They want to brainstorm around these ideas.
So ESTPs and ENTPs, your role in society is to get your ideas out there. Because again, just like the INTPs and the ISTPs, you guys have some creative solutions to things. ESTPs, you are probably more adept at in the moment tactile sorts of things. ENTPs, you are more involved with the out of the box type of thinking, but both of you bring a lot of value and you both are very small percentages of the population. So in whatever job you do, so again, ESTPs kind of get relegated to physical activities. I've seen that they can be amazing chemists, they can be professors, they can do, I know that one of you is going to come at me with that one, but they can be professors. Stop being a stereotype, stop putting people in boxes, that's not nice. But it's not nice. This is the second time I've said that
That is, you're being very emotional today. Feeling all the feels.
It's called a TI child. Don't hurt the child. So they can be professors. They can be a lot of different vocations. They don't have to be stuck in construction. If they want to be in construction, that's amazing. If they want to be building things, they can be very good at building things. But just because they are an ESTP does not mean that they have to do that. ENTP is the same thing. ENTPs are usually portrayed as they have to be entrepreneurs and that's all they can do. So yes, ENTPs have a lot of difficulty working for somebody else. At least they tend to. But if ENTPs can find a job that really plays into their passion, they don't have to do anything. They can function and thrive in any job. You just have to get an ENTP to, it has to align with their personal values. Their, not even values, their personal data system, their personal framework.
And then it has to have like a certain amount of freedom in it, but.
Well, yeah, they're not going to be happy doing the same job over and over again. But their role in society, basically for both of these types, can be anything they want it to be. Because they have that, as long as they have taken their time to really check their framework, they have that ability and they have the mental processes to go the distance. So let them do whatever it is they want to do and encourage them in that. And don't put them in boxes. I know you're gonna.
That's mean.
Don't do it. It's not nice.
Okay, a little tidbit for personal growth, as we always do right here at the end. So for the introverted types, using introverted thinking, INTPs and ISTPs. We adore you, we really do, but sometimes that whole stereotype of being robotic and all that comes from not necessarily tapping into your extroverted feeling inferior as often as you maybe should. And one thing that we talk about in a lot of these videos is that inferior function, we see it kind of develop later in life, usually 30s to 40s, somewhere around there, because it just takes time. It takes time to get through those top 3 and go into that 4th one and feel confident and comfortable with it. But if you are an INTP or an ISTP and you're watching this video, just to give you a little tip, it's always really great if you can focus on that function while you're younger instead of waiting until the last minute. You know, not to say that 40 is the last minute, but but just saying that the people that you love may have a different love language than what you're kind of showing them. So be sure to really look at the people around you and the people you want in your life, and whether that be family, friends, relationships, whatever it is, be sure to just really tap into their emotions and what they need from you. And that might not be that they need your opinion or a healthy debate. That might be that they need some feelings from you, or they need to see how you care about them.
And you don't have to cry with them or show them feelings
No.
if you don't want to, but just sometimes listening and hearing them out. And again, the INTPs and the ISTPs I have in my life are really good listeners. Mm-hmm. They're so good at listening. And so you can. And so I personally don't like should statements. However, I do understand where she's coming from. If you want to have success in some of your relationships, to an extent, you are going to have to tap into that function.
Everyone has an area of growth. We tap into it. We talk about it in every single video. I mean, that's why a lot of people go to Typology to begin with. We were just talking about this today. So, all right. So personal growth advice for the extroverted types. So you ENTPs and ESTPs.
Slow down. Think about that.
As an extrovert, you have got to stop just for a second, just for a little bit, okay? Longer than a second, but just for a little bit. You've really got to hone in on that auxiliary function. You have to check in with your introverted thinking. And this goes for any extroverted type across the board, that they just have to kind of slow down and they have to internalize. But specifically talking about you two, it has to happen, because we constantly see the boundary pushing, the people pleasing, the just not being true to yourself and to what you think and what matters to you. And if you don't learn how to tap into that early on, you're going to make a lot of big life decisions. You might make a lot of big life decisions based on the people around you and not necessarily who you are or what you want. Thank you for watching our video. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, go follow
subscribe.
Us. Yes, lots
I know
of
she
subscribe.
said it, but do it anyway.
We're on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Discord, and again on YouTube, which is what you're watching right now. Hopefully, yeah. Well, you're probably on YouTube.
Accurate.
This is where this is.
Anyways,
so we are, again, if you haven't watched our very first video, welcome to Typecast Heroes. Please go watch it. Give us lots of grace, but please go watch it, because we explain the project. Right now, we still do need all the types. However, ESTPs, we don't have, we just need a little bit more. So if you're an ESTP, or if you are any of these other types who know some ESTPs, we can use you.
Them this way. I love talking to you. I love all 16 types. I got called out for that one too. I get called out for all the things. I got called out for saying every type is my favorite. Well, yes, that is accurate. I like all of the types. However, I like them for different reasons. And ESTPs I really like because they are my stack flipped. And so I would really like to talk to you. I promise it's not painful. It takes 15 minutes. Like, please just get over it.
Super quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that bratty enough?
You know, while we're here, ESFJs, if you know any ESFJs, right?
Yeah, that's a challenge one.
Yeah, that's one too. So just saying while you're here, while you're watching us. Basically, if you have any friends or family in your life at all, if you can send them over. Specifically, though, if you have any of those two types.
And it's a free
ESTPs,
personality
ESTPs.
assessment, guys. Because if you want to go through the whole typing process, we do that as well.
Perfect. So we appreciate the support as always. We have such a fun time with you guys, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that's so gross. Why do you do that?
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTI TYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.